Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the December monthly call. This is Misty Woods, and I will be conducting today's call. So let's get started. We don't have a whole lot of information to go over today, but we do have some. All right, so here's today's agenda. We'll talk about some administrative review and procurement review information, and then we'll go over some slides from the verification summary form training that was conducted in November. Then we'll go over a handful of memos that have been posted since the last call, and then we'll talk about some upcoming trainings and events. And then lastly, we'll go over the Louisiana Tray of the Week. Okay, so let's first talk about the administrative reviews and procurement reviews. So for this current school year, for 25-26 school year, we have 38 reviews scheduled, and that includes both the administrative and procurement reviews that are being done at the same time. CNR will be conducting the majority of the reviews, while LDOE will be conducting some of those reviews. So as you can see, there are 30 reviews scheduled for CNR and 8 scheduled for LDOE. On-site reviews for both CNR and LDOE did start back in mid-October. Those SFAs that are being reviewed by CNR, they were reviewed last month or in this month or in January. You should have received your notification letter. Same thing if you were being reviewed in November, December, or January, you should have received your notification letters. Some actually farther on in the year have already also received their notification letter, but at the minimum, if you're being reviewed this month or next month, you should have already received all your notification letters. We've talked about this before, but CNR's contract does end on April 30th. So all of those reviews that are being conducted by CNR will need to be closed out by that date. So that means your summary of findings was turned into you, you submitted the corrective action, and your review was actually closed. All of that has to be completed by April 30th as their contract will end. We also talked about this before too. If time allows during this school year, we may actually, I say we, meaning LDOE, may complete some of those follow-up reviews later in this school year for those SFAs that were determined high risk on last year, so on 24-25 school year reviews. And of course, if that happens and when that happens, you will be notified prior to that follow-up review. And we'll talk about the follow-up review process in a couple of slides. But again, if we do those, if time allows, it'll be towards the end of this school year. So in general, let's talk about some best practices for your review so it can go as smoothly as possible during at least the off-site portion. So first, let's talk about the documentation files that need to be submitted. So we had a lot of people complain about having to upload files multiple times. We do recommend naming the files appropriately to minimize this issue that way it lessens the chances of it being possibly overlooked. So if the reviewer does not see the specific item, then they may think it was not originally uploaded and will ask for it to be uploaded again. And we think this is what's maybe happening in many of the cases. So next, when you're uploading the files, make sure that you upload individual files that are named appropriately rather than one large file with hundreds of pages. And so, this again will reduce the possibility of something being overlooked. So when we talk to CNR about this seemed to be most of the issue. Like, for example, a single 100-page document might be uploaded with items from multiple areas of the review, which would then require the reviewer to sort through and put in that correct section. So during that time frame, some things could be overlooked or not seen because it was all submitted together. And then let's talk about the communication with both us and CNR. So for those SFAs being reviewed by CNR, you have a designated review specialist. And those SFAs being reviewed by LDOE will have a lead reviewer and a reviewer helper. You can call or email your review specialist or your lead reviewer anytime with questions about the review process, the review in general, just anything related to your review. You can also request clarification if you are not sure about something or don't understand something. So I encourage everyone to ask questions to make sure you understand something rather than just receiving a finding for something because you didn't understand and didn't know to ask. You also need to communicate any concerns or issues with due dates with your review specialist or lead reviewer, because there possibly could be an extension that could be granted if the request is reasonable. So especially, now around the holidays and things like that, please reach out. And if you have any concerns or issues with those due dates, because when they do get those requests, they do speak to us about it, and we either allow the extension or we don't allow, depending on what that request is. So please reach out to them if you have any issues with that. Okay, so just some more general information about administrative review. So we still have some people asking, not sure, when their review scheduled for. So if you're still not sure about what year, you can go to the CMP website under School Food Service Resources, and you will find the current administrative review schedule. As we've been talking about before, we have been approved for a 5-year cycle. But because we've been approved for a 5-year cycle, it does allow us, or require us, I should say, to conduct targeted follow-up reviews of any SFA that's designated as high risk in a particular section within 2 years of that initial administrative review. So, and I'll go over it in the next slide, is how we have different administrative review modules that we score to determine if that SFA will be high risk in that section. Some findings will automatically identify the SFA as high risk. And because these findings are given the maximum amount of points, and those are specifically like if you have a finding that's a repeat finding, those are automatic high risk. Each module, though, does have a high risk point threshold, which is normally 5 points. And if a module meets or exceeds that point threshold, then that's how that SFA is considered high risk and will need a follow-up review in that module. And that, again, has to be done within 2 years of that initial review. So that's why we're thinking we may do some 24-25 follow-ups this year and then into next year, because they all have to be completed by the end of next school year. So here are the different modules. So after you get your administrative review and as everything is closed out, we actually perform a high risk assessment to determine if the SFA is considered high risk. So you're going to receive what we call a preliminary closure letter, and then you will receive a high risk letter if you have been determined high risk in one or more of these modules. The letter will list what modules were determined high risk, and an analysis of the risk will be based on those violations that occurred during either the administrative review or the procurement review. So again, like I said, you have to have 5 or more points in each particular module in order to be deemed high risk in that module. So on here, you'll see that we have 13 modules for the administrative review, and then we have a separate module just for procurement. And it goes basically by performance standard 1, performance standard 2, and then general areas, and then again, the procurement review. So we talked about follow-up reviews enough, but I'll go over this again. Will only be conducted in the areas that flagged as high risk. So, and again, within 24 months, 2 years, or it may be sooner. So to give you an example, if an SFA scored high risk, let's say in meal pattern, because that was a common high risk last year, the follow-up review may possibly take place during this school year because the SFA should have corrected those menus as part of their corrective action in order to be in compliance. However, let's say an SFA scored high risk in both resource management and procurement. The follow-up review may take place during next school year, during that second year, because it may possibly take the entire school year for the SFA to be back into compliance. And again, this will be on a case-by-case basis for us to determine whether we should do a follow-up in that first year or in that second year. The plan right now is that the follow-up reviews will primarily be conducted by LDOE. We are considering a hybrid approach. Again, this may be on a case-by-case basis for these follow-up reviews, which means it may be on and or off-site. For repeated findings, we do have the discretion as a state agency to apply fiscal action. So we may consider withholding payments in whole or part to any SFAs for those repeated findings that are not corrected. So when we go out there for a follow-up review, is because you are high risk in a section, we want to make sure that all those corrective actions actually were done and that you are now in compliance. But again, this will be another situation where it will be on a case-by-case basis. Okay, next, let's talk about some verification reminders. So just a verification overview. At or near the beginning of the program year, you were to collect students' eligibility in two different ways, either through direct certification matches or through household applications or a combination of both. So starting on October 1st, SFAs needed to count all of the applications certified at face value that did not match on the DC list. And then they used this total to calculate how many applications they would need to verify. SFAs had until November 15th to complete those verification activities. And applications that were submitted and found through direct certification were not eligible for verification. So now, well, you should say between mid-November and January 10th, this is the time where you have to report those results of the verification on that verification summary form. So all SFAs, regardless of their type, are required to report their results because it includes other information that USDA uses, such as your enrollment data, identified students, and the number of operating sites. The summary form, the verification summary form, is the last step in the verification process. So this last step can be completed pretty much as soon as the verification activities are completed, but it must be submitted to the state agency on our website no later than January 10th. So now's your time to start submitting those summary reports if you have not already done so. It is always a good idea to complete this summary form prior to the deadline so that we as a state agency have adequate time to review the information and make any corrections as needed. But always contact us here at the state agency if you have any questions about the verification process or the summary form in general. So now that all verification activities have been completed, you need to enter that data into the form. So you go to the CNP website, log into the CNP website, you go to the green School Food Service tab, and then click on that verification summary, and then under there, click on View Form. So this is how you get to the form. So it's called FNS 742 Verification Report, the actual name of it. It has 5 separate sections and is completed in a 3-step process. So in step 1, you're going to complete sections 1 through 5 and section M. M is for that Medicaid data. In step 2, you will run validations, which will check your data for errors according to these rules that have been set by USDA. And then in step 3, you're going to actually submit the data to the state agency. So one thing that we always try to remind all these SFAs is that all SFAs participating in National School Lunch, School Breakfast, even RCCIs, even if you don't conduct the actual verification process, you still must complete specific sections of this report. So make sure that even if you didn't have to do verification because you're CEP, you still have to complete this report. So let's talk about step 1 for sections 1 through 5 and section M. So sections 1 through 5 are completed differently according to which type of SFA that you're submitting your report for. So we had the verification summary training slides. They've been posted to Louisiana Fit Kids. And in that training, it is broken down by each type on how to complete the summary form. So you have traditional, which are your SFAs that utilize your free and reduced lunch applications. You have partial CEP systems, which are a mixture of CEP and non-CEP schools. You have the system-wide CEP systems, those are who are 100% CEP. And then you have RCCIs with day students and RCCIs without day students. So each section is broken down throughout that training of how to complete the form. So after you've completed all of that section, sections 1 through 5 in section M, you're going to go to step 2, which is run validations. So when you click on the validate data button at the bottom, it'll run all the data. It's a series of formulas with common errors that USDA has identified to ensure that your data is accurate. So that's the purpose of running that information. So again, please note that each section has to say marked as complete in order to be able to process that step or proceed to that step. So if you have a section that's not marked as complete, it will not let you hit that validate button. It's going to be grayed out. So please go back. If you have something that does not say marked as complete, go back to that sections and make sure they are completed. Okay, so again, with step 2, clicking the validate data will run that form through USDA's validations. And if there are any errors, they will show up here. So all errors must be corrected in their different sections prior to submission. So if you don't understand the error or the error that displays, please contact us and we can help you work through it and resolve those errors. So again, with questions, you contact us. We will make sure all those errors are corrected so that you can move on to that next step. And then once all those errors are corrected, you can now proceed to step 3, which is submit the verification summary. So in step 3, you're going to click for submission. Next, you're going to click on that checkbox that where it says the latest verification process, and then finally you're going to click submit. And then after a successful submission, you'll be able to download or print a copy of your form to keep for your records. You will also be able to go back and print a copy if you need to later on by going again back to that verification on the left-hand side of the website after you log on and click the view form under verification summary. And then after submission, once you do submit that, state agency, we may contact you if you have to do any revisions that may be required to your form. They'll release it back to you, but they'll contact you first. Because sometimes, that validate the data, it can catch certain things, but then there's certain things that we as a state agency will also catch. As a reminder, again, it is due January 10th, but please submit it as soon as possible so that staff have time to look at it and contact you and make any revisions that are needed. We do submit these reports to USDA. We have to submit them by March. So in case there are any further revisions, so please make sure that you are submitting by the deadline. And then for verification questions, these are the 2 people that most likely will be contacting you, especially if you had any errors. They will be contacting you with reminders to submit. So it'll be Kylie and Tasha. Those are the people that you will be working with throughout this verification summary form process. But if you do have any questions, their email is here and their phone numbers are here as well. You can always contact the general email address and I can always get in touch with them that way. But again, please, if you have any questions, please contact them. All right, let's go over some memos. We don't have many to go over. We have about 5 to go over. All right, the first one is about the state update coming in January, and I have another slide later on with a few more details on it. But the next state update is going to be in person. It's going to be on Wednesday, January 14th. This is our quarterly state update. We'll go over the agenda on the next few slides, but general topics, we're going to have Matt come and speak about commodities. We're going to have spend a couple of hours talking about the procurement overview in general. We'll talk about, it's already talking about summertime, so we'll be going over SSO versus SFSP, so you can start thinking about what you're planning to do. We have someone coming to speak about school wellness policies and school health advisory councils. We have Kathy talking about some share tables and team nutritions, as well as the Louisiana Fit Kids website update. And we have a few other topics that we'll go over. But we will be starting at 8:30. Registration and check-in will start at 8 o'clock. And we plan to go until 3. We have a full agenda. You can start registering on Louisiana Fit Kids. And like I said, this memo had said that the detailed agenda will be posted. We will be posting. The agenda, I think, has been added to Louisiana Fit Kids website as well. Okay, so the next memo is about another in-person training for the following day on January 15th. That'll be on Thursday. This training is specifically for school food authorities that are utilizing food service management company contracts. So this is an in-person training that is mandatory for those people. So if you don't use a food service management company, this training is not for you. This training will be, like again, on Thursday, January 15th from 9 a.m. till noon. Registration for this one will start at 8:30. Please register for this training on Louisiana Fit Kids, and this will also be at Pennington. The next memo is about the vended meal contract. So this is also relating to food service management company contracts, but this is for the vended meals. So this is also on Thursday, but it will be in the afternoon from 1 o'clock to 3 o'clock. And this training is specifically for vended meal contracts for those SFAs that are using food service management companies for vended meal services. Again, this training is mandatory for those SFAs that are using or planning to use that vendor or that food service management company as a vended meal contract. I failed to say it on the last one, but I'm going to say it on this one as well. These trainings are specifically for food service, school food authorities. They're not for any type of consultants or any type of food service or food service management company staff. It's specifically for the school food authority. So what we do is we look at the people who have registered, and if it's somebody that is not an SFA, we will be contacting them and we will not allow them to attend these trainings. All right, the next memo is about the October SNAP and TANF files that were loaded into the eScholar direct match. So districts to resolve the batches that are listed here. I will say that I'm not sure if y'all received an email or not, but Jane is no longer with LDOE. So if you have questions, contact the general email address so that we can get it to the correct people if you have any issues with downloading these batches. And then the October Medicaid free lunch and Medicaid reduced lunch files have also been loaded. And again, those districts need to resolve those near matches for those batches that are listed here. Again, contact the general email address if you have any questions or concerns, and that we can get that information or your question to the right person. Okay, we have quite a few trainings and events to talk about. As you may recall, the 2 trainings that we had scheduled in November were recorded. They were not actual live trainings. Both the November monthly call and the verification summer report training have been posted to Louisiana Fit Kids website. And then in addition, the 2 sessions that we presented at the SNAL conference back in October were also posted to Louisiana Fit Kids website for those that were unable to attend the conference. And both SNAL sessions were about the administrative review. The state update part was mainly about for the directors for offsite, where the administrative review session, that was the education session, was mainly for the on-site. So if you were not able to attend, please download those slides and review those slides. We have some best practices in there. We have a lot of different things that we cover about the administrative and the procurement review process. All right, so let's talk about some upcoming trainings. So today, obviously, is the December monthly call. We will not have a monthly call in January because we have the in-person state update on January 14th. Again, that will be at Pennington. And then like we just talked about, on January 15th, we will have the in-person training for those SFAs that are doing food service management company contracts, and then those SFAs that have a vended meal contracts through FMNC. So again, if you are not with a food service management company, you do not need to attend those trainings on January 15th. We've already had some people register. We will be contacting those that is not relevant for. Both of those trainings will be at Pennington. One will be in the auditorium, one will be in the classroom in the afternoon. Those have been posted on Louisiana Fit Kids website, so you can go ahead and register for those. And then we talked about this earlier, but here is the drafted agenda that we currently have. It is still subject to change, but right now this is the intended agenda that we have. Like I said, we'll start at 8:30, so please try to arrive by 8 o'clock so that you can check in, register, talk to different people so that we can start on time at 8:30. We'll have Matt come and speak. We'll even have a session on the at-risk supper program. So we'll have some CACFP staff there to present on that. We'll do a brief session on SSO versus summer feeding. So you can start making your decisions, because believe it or not, in February, we'll already be having trainings for those summer feedings. Then we'll spend a good chunk of time on procurement. And then we'll have Eat Real come to speak, but they will do a virtual session. They were at the SNAL conference and they asked to have a session to speak for our state update. We'll have some people from Pennington. I think it's going to be Kathy. That's going to be talking about share tables and team nutrition, and look at the Louisiana Fit Kids website, some of the changes that have been recently made. And then we'll have Susan come speak about school wellness policies and school health advisory council. So we do at this time have a full day scheduled. So please make it a point to try to get to this to state update, because again, we only do these quarterly. So we try to get as much information to you as possible when we do have these. Okay, so we've had some people ask about manager trainings already. So we're trying to plan out in advance so people can mark their calendars. So the virtual manager training this year will be June 22nd through the 24th. That is the virtual. There has no cap on how many people can join the virtual manager training. So if you have people that need to do this, mark your calendar for June 22nd through the 24th. Then we'll have the in-person manager training that is scheduled for July 6th through the 8th. That is the in-person training. That's going to be at Pennington. There is a limit to 40 people for the in-person training. So please, if that is something that you want your people to attend in person, make sure that you register early to get a spot. It will most likely be posted to Louisiana Fit Kids, the registration, sometime in January. So be on the lookout for in January for that registration to be posted for both those trainings. So make sure if you want that in person that you register early to get a spot. And we will post memos, like a memo or something closer to whenever we have all the details worked out for it. All right, another thing that we have coming up is new director training. So if you are new director, please save the date. This training is going to be held at Pennington, July 21st and 22nd. So we're in the process of developing this training. We're kind of making it similar to that Introduction to School Nutrition and Leadership training that ICN offers. The training will be specific for new directors, typically those with less than 2 years, but maybe up to 5 years of experience. Again, this registration will be posted on Louisiana Fit Kids within the upcoming months. So there is more information to come on this as well, but do mark your calendar if you are a new director and would like to attend this training. And this will be like 2 full days of training. And then the Louisiana Team Nutrition Leadership Institute does have 2 upcoming training opportunities. So each session on this, there's 2 different sessions. The session is limited to 30 people, and all participants will be required to attend all 3 days. So it's 3-day trainings. The cost is $60 per person. The first training will be February 24th through the 26th in Baton Rouge at LSU. And then the second training will be March 3rd through the 6th in Ruston at Louisiana Tech. So some people may wonder, what is this for? So this is a 3-day training for managers and other rising leaders in school nutrition. The training is going to provide hands-on culinary and leadership skills training. It's going to provide recipes, scratch cooking, and efficiency tips. You can register on Louisiana Fit Kids, and I'm being told that registration should be open by the end of this week sometime. But if you have any questions about these trainings, you can always email Louisiana Fit Kids. Their email address is linked on the bottom of the slide, specifically for any training, any questions about this training. So we had a couple of questions about what happens if someone registers for a training and is no longer able to attend. What can you do? So you can now update or cancel your registration at any time. So all you need to do is refer back. So if you register for a training and you find out later on, oh, I can't attend, I have something come up. You just need to go back to that email confirmation that you received when you registered. And you're going to click at the bottom of the email where it says update or cancel meeting registration. And then it will take you back to Louisiana Fit Kids website where you can update or cancel your registration. That's what the screenshot is on the right-hand side. You either update or you cancel it depending on what you need to do. And then you will receive another email confirmation of that update or cancellation. So if you know that you're not going to be able to attend, let's say you register to attend the state update in January, and you find out when you come back from Christmas break that there's just no way I'll be able to attend anymore. If you can please go and cancel your registration, it does help us because that way we have a true number of how many people to expect for that training. And then lastly, we'll talk about Louisiana Tray of the Week. We've kind of talked about this on the monthly calls every month. From what I can understand from Kathy, it's going really, really well. So she just wants me to remind people that, it does continue through May of 2026. And it's a really good way to recognize and celebrate your school nutrition staff because you're showcasing that quality, the creativity, and the appeal of that meal that you're serving to your students. You always, like she said before, send your photos to either Kathy Carmichael or to the Louisiana Fit Kids email address. And every school and every district in Louisiana is invited to participate. And each week, those selected trays are featured on the Louisiana Fit Kids social media platforms. So like I just talked about, so what do you need to do? It's very, very simple. You just submit your tray photos to either the Louisiana Fit Kids website email address or to Kathy Carmichael's email. Make sure that your tray meets the USDA meal pattern requirements by clearly showing all those components that have been offered. You need to include a short description of the menu items, indicate the school where that meal was served, provide when you served, so the date of service, and then make sure that your tray is attractively plated on that tray whenever you're photographing, because it needs to be an accurate representation of what your students are selecting or what they could select. And then here are a couple of tips when photographing. So you don't want to be too close. You don't want to be too high. You just want to have just that right distance and angle to make your tray look as best as it possibly can. Okay, so with that, I will look to see if we have any questions, but you can always contact us at the general phone number or at the Child Nutrition Programs at la.gov email address. I see we do have a couple of things in the chat. So per Kathy, the agenda for the state update has been posted on Louisiana Fit Kids. Vended meals is meals that you're not a self-prep. You have a vendor preparing and vending your meals to you. Somebody's asking questions of what do you consider as a vended meal? This is when you have a food service management company vending your meals to your school. We do have a question about if consultants can join the state update. Yes, the consultants can join the state update training. They cannot attend the food service management company training. And then I also have another message from Kathy that the Leadership Institute training, the team nutrition, for those two trainings, the registrations may be posted before the end of the week. So just keep checking if that's something that you're interested in, because again, those are limited to the amount of people that can attend those trainings. Okay, I am not seeing any more questions in the chat. So yeah, again, if you need to contact us, the general phone number is on this slide. The general email address is on this slide. I know people are counting down the days until the Christmas break, even though we just came back from Thanksgiving. So again, in a short period of time between Thanksgiving and Christmas, if you need something, we are always here for us. Those of you that are undergoing a review, like I said, please make sure that you're communicating with CNR or us during this time, and we will see everyone at the state update on January 14th. With that, I will let you go. Thank you for attending, and again, we will see you in January. Thank you.